Welcome to Chef Richard's Kitchen. I'm Chef Richard Miller. Today I want to make a side dish, Roquefort Mashed Potatoes. Now Roquefort Mashed Potatoes is one of those elegant side dishes that you might want to take to a potluck party or something fancy or something like that. It's extremely good. It brings on a lot of raves and gets you a lot of compliments. And I thought we might make those today. It's really quite simple. Really all you do is you start out with about 3 pounds of potatoes. I think I have a little bit more than that. And we dice them up into probably 1.5 inch cubes. They don't have to be finely diced by any stretch of the imagination because we're going to go ahead and cook them and mash them. It's going to take about 6 ounces of a good Roquefort cheese. Now, why Roquefort? It's a first cousin of blue cheese. Why do I use that? I just like the flavor just a little bit better. Can you use blue cheese if you want? Absolutely. Use whichever one you want. They both come out great. Take about 4 tablespoons of butter and a little white pepper. That's it. So, let me go ahead and I've got some water in the kettle here. I want to add some salt. Now, as soon as this boils, we'll be right back again. All right, the water's boiling, so let's go ahead and let's put in our potatoes. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let the water come up to a boil again, and then we'll kind of reduce it to not a rolling boil, kind of a mid-boil, somewhere around in there. And it'll probably take about 20 minutes, but what we want to do is we want to be able to stick a fork in them and have them come out cleanly. So, I'll be right back when we get to the point where they're ready to come out. Okay. The potatoes have been in here boiling. They're nice and tender. I started this out on induction on 1800 watts, and that was the high setting of it. I got the water boiling in there, but you don't need that much heat to keep it boiling once it is boiling. So I set it down to 800, and I let them go for probably about 20 minutes. So they're fine right now. So I'm going to go ahead and shut the heat off, and then we're going to drain them. But before I do that, what I wanted to do is, when I started this, I was using russet potato. And a lot of people use different potatoes. And I do too. One of my favorite is Yukon Gold. Because they're a lower starch, they have a nice buttery taste to them, and I just prefer them. However, when you're doing something that has a Roquefort or a blue cheese and you want that to stand out, I really didn't want the goldish appearance of it to really overpower it. So I went with the white of the russet. The russet also has a taste most people like. Could you use red potatoes or even purple potatoes? Absolutely. I haven't worked that much with purple. Reds would be fine. But I just, for this case, since most people just use russets, I thought I'd go ahead and just, do this for what most people would be using. So, all right, let me go ahead and drain this and get set up again, and we'll go ahead and mash them, and then we'll be ready to plate. Don't go far. Okay, I ran my potatoes just through a colander, drain the water out, put them right back in the same pot. So let's go ahead, and I want to put in 4 tablespoons of butter. And I want to pour in, I'm going to put in just a little bit. Usually I use about half a cup. I've got a little more in here just in case I need it, or maybe I need a little less, depending on the consistency. So it all depends a lot upon, you know, what the moisture of the potatoes were, whatever and whatnot. So what I recommend is you start out on the short side of the cream, or in this case I'm using half and half. Start out on the low end of that, and if they're a little sticky and you want a little, add a little bit more, go to it. Now, since the Roquefort here is just crumbled, and it could very easily, you know, get a whole lot less finer than that, what I'm doing is I'm going ahead and mashing the potatoes first, and then basically we'll put the cheese in there. It'll kind of, it'll kind of go ahead and incorporate in there. It'll melt a little bit. You'll still be able to see the blue mold in there, and it'll still have the taste, but it won't be completely, you know, dissolved or pureed in there. I'm going to add just a little bit more. I think we're up to about 1/3 of a cup now, and I'm glad I didn't put the whole thing in. All right, now let's go ahead and let's put our Roquefort in. Now, we're going to use a little white pepper in here. And as I mentioned before, when it comes to potatoes, mashed potatoes, I usually like to use white pepper instead of black pepper, just simply because it doesn't put those little black specks in there. And I don't know, do people mind it? I don't know. I do, and that's the reason why I prefer white pepper. So, it has a good taste, but it's lacking a little salt and pepper. Much better. It could still use just a little bit of salt. Remember, not too much salt that it tastes salty, but you just want enough in there that it brings out the flavor. And just a little bit more white pepper. All right, that gets a thumbs up. That gets a thumbs up. So, let's go ahead and plate. I serve these as a side, I always just like to put them on a little dish that gets passed around. I don't use a big one. I kind of like an oval platter. But use whatever you want. Alright, just smooth this just a little. Alright. Now, I want to go ahead and I want to put a couple of butter pats on the top of this. Alright, we'll kind of let them melt a little, melt in. I usually garnish this. Let me move my pumpkins out of the way here. Why the pumpkins? It's the end of September, fall's here. The little gourds are out. They're excellent to cook, by the way. In fact, I think I will do an episode on acorn squash. You know, it's one of my favorites. So that's one of the things about fall. Halloween's going to be here, you know, a couple more weeks. I'm getting in the spirit. All right. I just put a little chopped parsley on the top of it. And if you want, take a bigger sprig of parsley and put it on there. And there we are, Roquefort mashed potatoes. Now, what do I always tell you to do before you ever turn it out to your guests? That's right. But we tasted it earlier. You can taste you get a little bit of the russet potato taste. You get some of that good Roquefort taste in there. It tastes buttery in there, which is also what you want. I think it tastes really good. If I probably had to do it again, I might put an extra ounce of Roquefort in there. But right now you can taste the Roquefort. It's very creamy. It has a very rich flavor. Do you want to use blue cheese? Go for it. So anyway, here we go. We made another dish. Feel free to make it. Leave me a comment. If you add a little bit more cheese and you like it better, go ahead and put that in a comment. Or send me an email at chefrdmiller@att.net. Thank you again for watching. I hope you make this. It's a good dish to serve. If you need to take a side dish to a party, that's always a good one to take. So, thanks again for watching. Take care. God bless. Remember that cooking should always be fun. I'll see you next episode. Bye for now.